Hello, my name is Robin Healy. I'm the Dean of the School of Fashion and Textiles here at RMIT University. This morning I want to introduce you to the programs and opportunities we have here within the School of Fashion and Textiles. The Bachelor of Fashion Design, the Bachelor of Textile Design, the Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise, and the Bachelor of Fashion and Textiles Sustainable Innovation. Behind me is a photo from our Brunswick campus showing the place, the land, where our key activities occur. Next slide, please. Before I start, RMIT acknowledges the people of the Wurrung and the Burong language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors past and present. RMIT also acknowledges the traditional custodians and the ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Next slide, please. Our commitment to reconciliation. RMIT is committed to redefining its relationship in working with and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander self-determination. The university's goal is to achieve lasting transformation by maturing its values, culture, policy and structures in a way that embeds reconciliation in everything we do. In line with the principles of Bonjour, we are changing our ways of knowing, working and being to support sustainable reconciliation and activate a relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous staff, students and community. Next slide, please. RMIT University School of Fashion and Textiles is one of the top schools in the world. We also are #1 in Australia. We are quite unique in bringing together the 3 disciplines of design, technology and enterprise, which allows students to specialise in one of these areas or also traverse between the 3. We are very interested in terms of exploring new ways of doing within industry. We are recognised worldwide as a leader in sustainable innovations and also in terms of how we work closely with our industry partners. Next slide, please. So if you join us at the School of Fashion and Textiles, you can look forward to becoming part of the future of the fashion and textiles industries. As I mentioned before, we are leaders, we are innovators. We are interested in what happens next, not about what we know now, but what we might create into the future. So this is an inspiring place to be part of. We look at flexible career paths. We look at what are the new opportunities in industry. What are the roles that we can create in knowing the sorts of issues that are impacting on industry now and into the future. So we work very closely with our industry partners, and in the next presentations you will learn about some of those initiatives of the industries we work with and the sorts of projects you would be involved in if you join the school. So we do have blended learning experiences. We have state-of-the-art advanced technologies that allow us to do online learning, but also we have world-class on-campus facilities, which I'll talk about in a moment. We are fortunate to have campuses, 2 campuses in RMIT Vietnam. We also have a presence in RMIT Europe, and we have a broad connection of global institutions that allow us to either partner with them on projects or allow for mobility during the course of your studies. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, our facilities are dynamic. We're actually seen as a world leader in terms of the types of facilities that we present. So as I mentioned earlier, we have interactive spaces which allow us to do video channeling. We can actually work with an international partner within a studio through that video channeling. So in terms of different time zones, doesn't impact on our ability to work with international partners. We also have incredible specialised facilities. We're one of the few institutions in Australia and also in the world that has the scope of the types of facilities that we have. We have laboratory facilities, we have design facilities, we have advanced technology, and you can see the extensive list here. We also are leaders in advanced technologies to do do with design systems. So we have CLO, we have 3D knitting, and so on. So you can see it's a very rich offering. We also have started a new enterprise in terms of a dye garden. We're working closely with First Nations people in growing Indigenous plants and learning the properties of dyeing. And also in terms of our commitment to sustainability is our fashion composter. We're again gathering the debris from our Brunswick campus, but also composting calico scraps and also some of our food scraps. So we are very much into thinking beyond what we know, and certainly we're exploratory. We're curious about what might happen next. And with that in mind, I would like to hand over to Dr. Ricarda Bigelin, who is the Associate Dean of Fashion and Textiles Design, who will talk to you in more depth about the design programs. Enjoy. Over to you, Ricarda. Next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. As Robin mentioned, thank you, Robin. My name is Ricarda Bigelin. I'm the Associate Dean of Fashion and Textile Design. I'll be presenting you today about our fashion and textile design courses and what makes us one of the world leaders in these. We define fashion and textile design as being not about just designing clothes and fabric, but about designing for the body and materials, exploring surfaces, materialities, products, spaces, and experiences. We are innovative and progressive, as Robin has outlined. Our approach and our students and graduates are recognised and lauded nationally and internationally. This image was from the March 2021 Vogue Australia, with supermodel Gemma Ward wearing the second year designs of one of our graduates, Phoebe Pendergast-Jones. Next slide, please. Our approach to industry is also unique. We prepare our designers to imagine new industry contexts, jobs of the future. Above all else, we focus on sustainable and ethical industry practices. Our students have cross-disciplinary approaches, learning to collaborate with many other fields. This image is from the collaborative project we did with Nike Australia for Air Max Day. We were chosen as a key creative partner as one of the very few education partners worldwide to collaborate with Nike on this global product launch. Nike ran design workshops with us where students got to redesign and experiment with Air Max shoes as an indication of the calibre of projects we do with industry. Next slide, please. The global recognition for our graduates is quite profound. We're recognised for the quality of our graduates and the unique quality of our education in the last Business of Fashion rankings, which is the preeminent ranking system for fashion education programs. The Bachelor of Fashion Design Honours program was rated in the top 11 of courses globally, amongst a field of hundreds in a highly competitive fashion design program category. This was the highest for any course in any school in Australia. QS World Universities rank us as part of the art and design course category in the top 11. And as mentioned, we are acknowledged by our incredible industry partners, such as being profiled in Vogue, but also with the global brands such as Nike. Our graduates win many awards. We have won the prestigious Australian Fashion Foundation Scholarship, a $20,000 scholarship for graduates to do an internship in New York consecutively for the last 6 years. Our textile and fashion graduates have also won the Design Institute of Australia Graduate of the Year Awards, and graduates have also won International Talent Support Prizes, which are very prestigious prizes from Italy, and the ID Dunedin prizes that are highly regarded also as international competitions. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about what you as future students need to do to be a part of this. For both the Bachelor of Fashion Design and the Bachelor of Textile Design, there is no 8-hour requirements for entry into these. Successful completion of an Australian Year 12 or equivalent is part of it. VCE Units 3 and 4 are under study score of 30 in English, EAL, or at least 25 in English other than EAL or equivalent studies. All applicants must complete and submit the selection task, which I'll go through in detail in a moment. This image shows the wonderful work of student Corey Indian upcycling high vis as part of the first year work. Next slide, please. The selection task is 2 parts, a written statement and a folio. For the statement, and this is for both the Bachelor of Fashion Design and the Bachelor of Textile Design, you'll produce a 300-word statement in total. You'll start with talking about how you will outline what current skills and capabilities you have, or past experience you have to support you in the programs. You'll also identify a fashion brand or an artist that you can write about that inspires you and explain what this is. And also the first point, how you hope the subjects and the specializations in these programs will assist you in what you want to do as a designer. This is an image from Yuki Lee, one of the elective courses around creating objects and accessories for the body. Next slide, please. Now, we'll get a lot of questions about the folio, so I'll try to explain as in detail as possible. For the Bachelor of Textile and Fashion Design, you'll complete 6 to 10 pages. These are actual pages that you will use in your file. And it really is about demonstrating all of your thinking, not just finished work. You can show anything from research for design ideas, sketching, drawing, exploration of materials, or any exploration of methods of making. We say pages, we actually mean the pages in the folio. Be experimental, it does not have to be finished work, and we're excited to see how you approach creative experimentation. Please include works that shows and documents the work that you do and how you think. You can include work from secondary school, previous study, or personal projects from a variety of disciplines. This is an example of second year student Kane Turner from the subject Fashion Communication. We are really interested in all creative disciplines. Next slide, please. For the Bachelor of both Textiles and Fashion, your folio should be a single PDF, maximum 10 megabyte, and under each page provide a description of 50 words of the work that you can see. This is example from a second year student, Laura Heron, but you can see a folio in action where there's annotation describing the workings and the thinkings behind the images shown. Please put your VTAC and ID application on each page. You can also provide a URL to your folio if you need to actually instead use a URL as opposed to submitting a folio as a PDF. The panel is looking to understand how you think and how you go about design. And we also suggest that you research some of our graduates. You'll see some of them here today in the images that we're showing, that look at the different artists and the future and designers and their future careers. Next slide, please. If you're not successful getting into the Bachelor of Fashion or Textile Design, you can take a pathway via vocational education. If you complete the Associate Degree of Fashion Design Technology, which is a 2-year course, you'll receive 144 credits, or the equivalent of half the Bachelor of Fashion Design, and it will take you an extra 2 years to complete. You can also complete the Certificate for in Textile Design, Development and Production, and you're guaranteed entry into the program. Next slide, please. Once you've completed these, there's a variety of exciting pathways that you can talk about, which that you can consider, which we'll talk about in a moment, such as a 1-year honours in textile or in fashion design, and also a master's. The master's is actually another +1 if you undertake the honours program, and I'll talk more about these a bit later. Next slide, please. Both our Bachelor of Fashion and Textile Design have similar course structures. You can undertake a minor in either of these from the discipline. So if you're in textiles, you can undertake a minor in fashion enterprise, sustainable innovation, or fashion design. In the first year in both programs, you undertake 8 subjects across the year, so you get a sample of the whole program across those. In textile design, the focus is really on textile structures, surfaces, materialities, products, bodies, and spaces. And textile designers work across a multiple contexts. Both programs have introduction subjects where you're introduced to everything. In addition, 2 subjects in the first year are shared by the school, and you'll collaborate with all the Bachelor students in the school in those courses. The course structure gives you lots of choice and flexibility. You can also undertake university courses from anywhere in the university. You do 3 key design studios. You do a partnered project, which I'll talk about shortly, where you collaborate directly with industry. You do a persona project where you're exploring your approach to your distinct entity and market, and you launch yourself with Project Launch. Across all year levels, there's a focus on communication skills, digital communication, making websites, and preparing your folio across many different years. Next slide, please. For fashion, as mentioned, it's very similar program structure. You can minor in textiles or sustainable innovation, and there's really a similar set of courses and course experiences that you can undertake. In fashion, you start with an introduction to sustainable design methods in fashion design reuse, and option courses give you different aspects of industry practices and methods. Next slide, please. As Robin mentioned, we have world-class and unique learning spaces. You can see here I'm actually pictured in one of them digitally in the Advanced Fashion and Textile Design Studios for honours and masters students in our city campus. Our facilities in Brunswick, which is the main base for the Bachelor program, supports you across the latest machinery, but also cross-disciplinary studios and non-traditional. You can see here in some of the images, there are spaces to explore non-traditional materials and construction techniques. There's also great exhibition spaces available as shown in these images. And even currently in lockdown, we've been able to support our final year students with accessing some of these facilities. Next slide, please. And I'll talk more about the learning experience for the Bachelors. The focus on both is a broad range of design skills and techniques. For fashion design, you'll refine your design practice and you'll learn to apply your skills to garments, communication, materials, artifacts, and more. Here's the graduating work from a student, Astrid Woronczak. Fashion design project launched last year, produced during lockdown, but Astrid made a virtual fashion brand, but also made this work and experimented with this work with real life techniques such as upcycling and reworking. Next slide, please. For textile design, you'll build the skills you need to design surfaces, textiles, materials, and structures of the world around you. You'll work across fashion, interior, architecture, industrial, automotive industries, as well as developing potentially an emerging brand or practice and really independent approaches. This is the work of Karo Patel, who upcycled textile waste into these incredible objects that you can see on the screen now. Next slide, please. In the first year, all our bachelors come together and learn as a community and the importance of understanding our place in Australia and how this connects to fashion and textile communities. As students learn about Indigenous and local perspectives and practices and begin to consider our shared future. You can see student examples here from this course where students write their own acknowledgement of country, exploring reconciliation and identity through place. Next slide, please. The introduction to the discipline assumes you know nothing. We always get asked that. You can see here in our introduction to fashion design practice, you're introduced to 3D form, draping, patterns, and you learn to use yourself as your own personal mannequin as a way to understand the relationships from 2D to 3D form. Next slide, please. In fashion design reuse, it's our commitment to sustainability starts in the first year where you learn the importance of designing in that way, and students learn approaches to redesign and remanufacture, as you can see here with the work from Shanzi Zong from semester this year. Next slide, please. Shown here is an example from first year where across fashion and textiles, the importance of learning to express your design ideas from first year, from drawing, collage, image making. This is the work of Penelope Kozler from first year. Next slide, please. I'll now scroll through some of the second year experiences across fashion. You can see here the work of Transform Fashion Design Materials. Students learn, and we'll scroll through these images up until for the next moment. Transform Fashion Design Materials is an important course because you learn to design materials first, not after you design something. This is the work from Shay Gutler. We also then have our importance with the industry partnered projects. Students partnered with Disney. We don't just work with fashion brands, and this coincided with the launch of the film Cruella. Students designed garments for that launch, and you can see work from this. Across that, we also work with different ways to collaborate with other industry partners, and we can go to the next slide, please. This is some example of background development work from those students. Pitching this work to Disney. Next slide, please. We also worked with the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, where students design product for staff to shop, but also producing films. Next slide, please. And this is an example also from that project. So we're not just collaborating with fashion. This is an example of students working actually with a transport company from Textile Design in the Metro Tunnel, designing the hoardings that are right near Melbourne Central that are seen by hundreds daily. This is also an example from the work with a partnered project with Politics, a menswear brand, where textile design students produce the textiles, the print and motifs for this particular project. Students in textiles also work with homeware company, and this is homeware's company Linen House. Many of these industry placements also include further placements, design awards, scholarships, and they're fantastic experiences. And we collaborate across fashion and textile industries, as you can see here. We're constantly asked to do this, and it provides many opportunities for our graduates going forward. Also, to complement these industry-ready skills, students learn across programs the importance of communication skills. In year 2, they produce high-quality images and experiment with really innovative ways to communicate practice, and produce also portfolio websites, which they add to throughout the program. Next slide, please. And next slide, great. The course will, in textile design, students experiment with textile surface and form. And as I said before, this material first approach, students explore a range of different materials and traditional handcraft materials, and really speculate around craft and different ways of producing surface, print, colour, motif, as you can see with these works here. Okay, for once we get to year 3, students focus on persona project in textile and fashion design, and they really are about exploring their own distinct approach to the market, context, identity. They'll each produce their own design brief and work on their project across both programs, and they're at the same time really always working with industry in different aspects across both programs, either to assess the work or also industry coming in here. And you can see across this, it's really about students just challenging before they graduate the work with new materials and working with really different processes as well. Next slide, please. The final courses that students do after Persona Project is in Project Launch. And once we get to the next slide, we can have a look at that, where students actually, after doing Persona, are ready to actually produce their work and present it and have it as a graduating project. As you can see with the work from Jess Hall, it really requires students to be ready to launch themselves to either industry or to launch themselves to further study. And you can see here it's our capstone project, where students really synthesize everything they've learned and prepare a graduating project or folio. Next slide, please. Some more images here from Project Launch for fashion design. And you can see that students are also using this as an opportunity to really test what they're doing, complementing our major core courses, our option courses. You can see here we have a wonderful course, Fashion Design Compositions and Styling, where students really interrogate how they're working in industry, how they also can style and produce their work in different ways. We have many students that are going into those areas. Now we'll get to our global opportunities. Throughout, there are many opportunities and global experiences such as exchange, and RMIT has a rich 200 partner network of institutions you can choose from. As well as these exchanges and learning experiences, we have guest lecturers, workshops, and other projects with some of the most prestigious fashion schools in the world. And shown here, next slide, please, you can see some of these. There's some of the top schools in the world that sit with us in this position that we're working with regularly to bring many different learning experiences from around the world to students. We'll now talk about the career outcomes. Next slide, please. For textiles and for students who do the textile design, there's a variety of industries that we can look at: fashion, industrial, automotive, home. Students obviously work as designers, they work in material innovation, working in homewares, or also going on to another year of study in the honours program. Next slide, please. For fashion, students become fashion designers, obviously, or focus on accessories, costume, material, or colour design. Digital content, creative or brand strategy, being a creative director or stylist, or working in the communications sector, which we're finding is an area lots of students are going into. Next slide, please. We'll now talk about the pathways after doing our bachelor's. Is the honours program in textiles and in fashion. You can choose to do an additional year of study if you meet the GPA requirements. And this is also for students all around Australia that may be interested in this honours program, where you can actually spend one more year developing your practice. Next slide, please. And this is an example from a student who worked in the honours program last year, Oscar Keane, who's gone on to work to win many competitions, but also produce a very unique practice. Oscar actually made a completely digital collection, but also made it in real life. So there was two elements of their practice have just recently also been featured in Vogue as amongst many other accolades. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the textiles honours is something that you can do, and you can see here the work of Briar Griffith Kemp that use recycled garments to produce print as a different way of working. So you really get to research your practice in the honours program and go really deep and either again go into further study or have a really advanced practice at the end of that. Next slide, please. There's also the Masters, as I mentioned, which is another year after completing the honours year, or 2 separate years if taken alone. And you can see here the work of a digital film made as part of the showcase. Next slide, please. We also do partnered projects in honours. You can see here the incredible project where Master approached us to do a design project called Design Driven, where students actually designed for the new Mazda electronic car. They actually were able to design a really sustainable, focused designs that really captured the approach of the car. And students, the winning student shown here, Lily McKenzie, is lucky enough, hopefully, to win a trip to Japan as part of the winning designs for this. So we constantly work with industry across all levels of the programs. Next slide, please. We do Amazing Graduate Showcase as part of those year levels. This is from a few years ago now, from 2019, where we work with M Pavilion. And in the next slide, we can also see the digital showcases that we do. We have an amazing graduate website, afs.rmit.fashion, where you can see all of our graduates showcase, which I recommend that you go to. And the next slide, please. And our industry connections are phenomenal from these programs. So these are some of the brands that we've either worked with, or our graduates have done placements, or our graduates are actually working there now. So we have a phenomenal track record with working with some of the biggest names in the industry, but also with students actually starting their own practices from our programs. Next slide, please. We have incredible alumni, such as Alexandra Louise Champion-Hackett, that has gone on to, after doing some DIY upcycling Nike pieces, is a brand consultant for Nike, but also has her own brand and her own mini personal brand called Mini Swoosh, which is a really interesting approach. But so students are really working differently in industry. Next slide, please. Alumni from textiles also go into the automotive industry and are known for really pushing materials and working differently. This is an example from an alumni here that went on to work for GM. Next slide, please. Textiles alumni are also going into other areas such as in homewares and working in textiles in that type of area as well. And you can see the work here of Jack Fillmore. You can also see here the work of Ruth Chavis, an alumni that also has questioned textiles and is going on to a PhD. Next slide, please. Other alumni, Elisa Keeler and Jordan Condor, have their own design brand, Marosk Petch. And you can scroll through the next slides, please. And Helena Dong, who created Instagram filters, so really working differently, different approaches to the new kind of digital content creation that we have alumni in. And our programs really support these diverse careers. So you can see here the work of Hugh Westland, who's a senior designer at Balenciaga. So we have our graduates also working in the big brands worldwide, as well as starting their own thing and really working differently in industry. Next slide, please. And this is the work of Vlad Konevsky, one of our graduates that's working at the really lauded menswear brand Tom Brown. So our programs support many different ways of working in fashion. I'll now hand over to the Associate Dean of Fashion and Textile Technology, Jenny Underwood. I hope I've given you a good insight of some of the fashion and design experiences for our graduates and students. Thank you. Are you there, Jenny?
Thank you, Ricarda. And great to see in terms of those fantastic visual images. And I guess I'm going to talk about, and firstly, hello everyone, I'm Jenny Underwood. I am the Associate Dean of Fashion and Textile Technology. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our Bachelor of Fashion and Textiles Sustainable Innovation. So this is a relatively new program, and I guess this is a program that can really complement in terms of design and enterprise. So that's the great thing about being in the School of Fashion and Textiles, is that you get exposure to all facets of the industry. Next slide, thank you. So this degree, Sustainable Innovation, sits within the technology discipline. And consider technology innovations and improved environmental, social and ethical practices are transforming the industry, fundamentally changing how our clothes are made, consumed and experienced. So we want you to be at the forefront of this industry and to make those changes. So we really are about creating innovative, sustainable solutions, products and systems, responding to critical issues and the emerging opportunities. So with this, we're really focusing on ethical, sustainable production practices, digital technologies, innovation, wearables, using interdisciplinary and user-centered approaches. So next slide. So our aim is really to empower you to be change agents for industry. And we want to do this by really developing some core capabilities in critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And as I said, we take an interdisciplinary approach. So we're really working at the intersection of design, technology, science, and art, so that you have the skills for the 21st century. Next. So what are the entry requirements? Firstly, you need to have successfully completed Year 12. It's important to note with this degree, you don't need to submit a folio and you don't have an interview to get into the Sustainable Innovation degree. Entry is based on your academic achievement plus any adjustment factors, and that can include equity access schemes and or subject adjustments. It is competitive, and as an indication, for this year the ATAR was 73. But it's important to note that it changes from year to year. We also have 2 intakes each year, one in February or late February and the other in mid-July. Each semester is about 12 weeks, and then there is about 2 to 3 weeks for assessment, And all up, you're looking at about a commitment of 40 hours a week. And that translates to about 12 to 14 hours contact each week. Much of the learning on this program in sustainable innovation is around both sort of small tutorial groups, really social learning, as well as the studio model, where you're immersed in learning hands-on skills. Next. So there are pathways. So if you have done some prior study in either the Associate Degree of Fashion Design and Technology or the Associate Degree of Fashion Merchandise Management, we will recognise part of that study that you've undertaken, and we will give you credit for 7 subjects. And this equates to about 84 credits. Also, you can move on after doing the study of the Bachelor of Fashion and Textile Sustainable Innovation, and you can go on to either undertake an honours or masters here at RMIT. Next. The course structure, as I said, the degree is 3 years. It's made up of 6 semesters, and you'll undertake a combination of core subjects and also option subjects. So you'll study 12 core subjects, and this is where you really learn all about sustainable innovation from many different perspectives and what that might mean for the fashion and textile industry. You also get to choose a number of option courses, and that can be from within the degree of sustainable innovation, or it can be from either fashion design, textile design, or fashion enterprise. And if you take 4 of those courses or subjects, then you can end up with a minor. And it's a great way to really tailor a degree to suit what you're interested in. Next. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you will learn if you choose to take the Fashion and Textiles Sustainable Innovation degree. Firstly, we have a big focus on ethical and sustainable practices. These are transforming the fashion industry and really radically thinking about what it is that we, how we work and the ways in which we work more collaboratively. So the type of things that you will learn are to do with systems thinking, circularity, solutions for textile waste management and elimination strategies, improving transparency, traceability, life cycle assessment, corporate social responsibility, accreditation and certification, as well as policy. And we do this through also embedding the Sustainable Development Goals and looking at how we can make a contribution with our work in reconciliation and how we work with different knowledge systems. Next. We also really want to focus on material innovation. So for us, we do this through our fashion and textile materials, and we can, or you can choose whether you want to focus more on sustainable materials. It could be the emerging new areas of biomaterials, smart and active materials, or wearable technologies for smart clothing solutions. So when you think about our clothes, it could be that you end up designing for improved healthcare, well-being, performance, or protection. And there's a number of subjects that you can select if you're interested in this area. Next. The other important area for us is around digital transformation. Automation, robotics, and AI are only just beginning to have a real impact for the fashion and textile industry. So there's a host of emerging tools that really put you at the forefront. So you can learn a whole range of techniques and softwares, and that could be from the Adobe suite for communication or filmmaking, as well as really fashion-specific software, such as Clo 3D. And this is where you get to create virtual, true-to-life 3D garment visualizations. So and simultaneously have the 2D garment patterns being generated. So you can see with this image that this has been really a design worked in the digital format and then brought through into real life. We also look at other software such as Rhino and Grasshopper, which is about 3D modeling and also generative design. So again, really emerging. Next. As well as that, you're learning to foster your creativity. And I think that's a really important point. As this image by Taya shows, you know, the digital world opens up the possibility to design really immersive experiences, be it that relationship between materials, the body, and environments. And you get to create that. These are critical skills that are really only just starting to take off in the fashion industry. So it sets you up incredibly well. You can also learn about data analytics, and that's the other side of the digital revolution for us. Next. By studying on this course, there are lots of opportunities to connect with industry. This can include partnered projects, placements, case studies. And it's also really important to know that many of our teaching staff work in industry. So they come into the classroom, share their experience and knowledge and professional practices. So we work with a whole range of different companies, and these are just some of the companies that we're working with at the moment. Next. The last thing I want to talk about is some career outcomes. So these are a list of some of the current job titles, either recently advertised or being advertised, and they represent some of the real possible career outcomes that you could have by studying on the Bachelor of Fashion and Textiles Sustainable Innovation. There are lots of opportunities here, be it in sustainability, material innovation, and the digital and technical areas of fashion and textiles. So remember, if you want to learn more, you can always go to the RMIT website to read about, you know, particularly the different subjects that you can undertake in the fashion and textiles sustainable innovation. So I will now hand over to Dr. Stephen Wigley, who is going to talk about the Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise. So over to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Jenny, and thanks very much for that introduction to fashion sustainable innovation. Following on from what Jenny had to say about sustainable innovation, I just wanted to introduce the Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise. So my name is Dr. Stephen Wigley. I'm the Associate Dean for our Fashion Enterprise area within the School of Fashion and Textiles. And I guess you could say fashion enterprise essentially is the business of fashion. It covers marketing, it covers e-commerce, it covers buying, it covers product management, and it covers, I suppose, all those kind of aspects of the fashion and textiles industry, which are beyond design. They're looking at how consumers interact, use, buy, and are promoted concepts of fashion. So if we move on to the next slide, please, I'll tell you a little bit more about the Fashion Enterprise program. So Fashion Enterprise, as I said, it is very much about people and economies. What we try and do is to examine the environmental, the ethical, the corporate, and the consumer dimensions of the fashion and textiles industry around the world. And how we do that is through specializing in subjects such as product management, fashion marketing, and retail and online retailing. So we emphasize new practices ranging from data-driven approaches, and we also integrate interactive virtual environments, digital technology, global transparency in terms of sustainability, and I guess improved practices in trying to build a sustainable and circular economy around the fashion and textiles industry. So in terms of an introduction to the programme, I suppose what we're trying to do is to integrate some of the things that particularly Jenny was talking about in terms of sustainability, but trying to put that in a commercial context, a business context. So moving on to the next slide, please. And this is a little bit more detail talking about the programme. So we do explore the environmental, the ethical, and the corporate and consumer dimensions of the industry. And we do specialise very much in those areas of product management, fashion marketing, and fashion retail, both physical retail and online retail, obviously. And what we're trying to give our students is an understanding of how the industry actually kind of functions behind the scenes. So trying to understand how consumer trends happen, how people buy products, how those products are actually kind of sourced, developed and put together, and how fashion products are promoted to customers around the world, but obviously in Australia in particular. And by integrating our approach to sustainability and by integrating our understanding of digital technology in particular, what we let our students do is to really specialise in, as I said, fashion product management. So that includes range planning, buying, merchandising. Fashion marketing, which might include branding and consumer insights, and fashion retail, which, as I said, includes both physical retail, but also innovative retail formats, online, pop-up retail, etc., etc. So we are very much looking beyond next season. We're trying to help our students really be change makers in the fashion industry of tomorrow. And if we move to the next slide, there's a little bit more information here about the nature of the programme. So this just details some of the courses that students do follow throughout Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise. And just like with our fashion design, textile design, and fashion and textile sustainable innovation programs, we do offer Fashion Enterprise students the opportunity to minor in any of the other Bachelor Bachelor of Fashion and Textiles subject areas. So you can see there we do have quite a lot of opportunity for students to kind of build their own program, both through enterprise program options, and we do have some quite interesting and quite niche option courses available to our students, and also, as I said, to engage with fashion design, with sustainable innovation, or textile design in terms of those minor options as well. So a good comprehensive program, and the next slide details a little bit of some of the nature of both pathways into the program. So we do have a pathway into the program via our associate degree in fashion and textile merchandising, and out of the program onwards to further study, if students wish to do that, into our Master of Fashion Entrepreneurship. So we do have those very strong pathways both into the program and onwards from it. And if we move on to the next slide, what we've got here is an opportunity to explore the specializations that we offer within Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise. So as I said, we do integrate digital technology throughout our program. That includes approaches to artificial intelligence, augmented reality, blockchain and big data management. And we complement that with an understanding of the ethical and sustainability issues, which, go without saying, are very critical to the current status and the future of the global fashion industry. So by integrating that digital technology and a perspective on sustainability and ethical issues, we do let our students specialize in, as I said, fashion product management. So this includes sourcing, it includes tracking back through the supply chain, thinking about product management, range planning, and I suppose students who specialise in that area might want to become buyers, merchandisers, allocators, range planners, etc. Within our fashion marketing specialisation, we do let students explore consumer behaviour They explore concepts around branding and luxury branding in particular, and learn how to develop a communication strategy using the media, using digital technology in order to position and promote products so that they become commercially successful. And last but not least, in our fashion retail management specialization, we do cover the physical, the online, but also innovative and mobile opportunities within fashion retail. And I guess what we're trying to do, especially in that very demanding right now retail environment, trying to challenge students to come up with innovative solutions to the challenges that face tomorrow's retail landscape. So throughout our specializations, very much taking, as Robin said, a very future focus. What's next in the fashion industry, giving students that opportunity to specialize within their kind of core area of interest in terms of their career. If we move forward to the next slide, some of those careers that our students would go on to would be in the buying merchandising space, in marketing and PR roles, working with the media perhaps. Many of our students would go on to become range planners. They'd be working in the e-commerce space. That digital aspect of the fashion industry is obviously incredibly significant right now, so many of our students are interested in that. And also touching back to the sustainability issues, many of our students might be interested in taking a kind of a commercial or a corporate view of corporate social responsibility and try to innovate, I suppose, in that retail space as well. So I suppose in terms of career outcomes, Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise students would be taking a look at the future of the business of fashion. And if we move on to the next slide, please. Our entry requirements for Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise, just as Jenny said, for sustainable innovation, fairly simple and straightforward. You need to have successfully completed year 12. There is no folio or interview requirement for this program. So if you have met the requirements, we would certainly very much welcome your application. And if we do move on to the next slide, please. On Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise, we're also very keen to integrate our industry partnerships that both Robin, Jenny and Ricarda mentioned before. So integrating with industry partners such as David Jones, some other interesting businesses that are perhaps beyond the kind of the high street, as it were, in terms of working with a business called Caprice, who actually design and manufacture for a number of retailers in Australia, developing sustainable children's capsule collections. And another interesting industry project that we've collaborated with would be with a business called Ocular, who actually are essentially artificial intelligence specialists. So they work with online retailers to kind of gather the data, to gather the terms, to gather all the information that helps online fashion retailers, and in particular online fashion shoppers, actually find the products that they're looking for. So that's a good example of how we've integrated some of that advanced technology with our students in terms of those industry projects, and obviously many more, too many to cover in one slide really. And if we move on to the next slide, please. I think it's important to end with the student voice. Obviously, Robin, Ricarda, Jenny and myself, we obviously work for RMIT and we're very proud of our school and we're very proud of our programs that we've helped shape. But I think what makes the programs come to life is our students. And as Ricarda and Jenny have said, you know, we've had so many successful students in the past. Here we've got a few quotes from some of our current Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise students, just talking about some of the things that they've really enjoyed over the past couple of years studying with us at RMIT. And I think their words probably speak more powerfully than anything anyone on the staff team could say in terms of conveying something of the experience, conveying something about the nature of what they learn and how they learn. So that is our last slide. And I think we're going to transition now over into questions. So I know we've been very active in the Q&A chat, so thank you very much for your input, and obviously thank you for your time this morning attending and listening to us. The thing that I've noticed throughout our questions chat is there's quite a lot of questions around the folio and the entry requirements for fashion and textile design in particular. So Ricardo, I wonder if you could very briefly, just very quickly talk over again some of the requirements in terms of expectations, what you would like to see from the perfect fashion or textile design applicant. Ricardo, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Hi, Stephen. Can you hear me?
We can, yeah,
Great.
thanks, Ricardo.
As mentioned, with the folio, there's been a few questions about the folio, and you can use any type of creative field or creative work in the folio. It doesn't just have to be fashion or textile design examples. It could be from art, photography, industrial. It could be any type of thing. It could be creative writing examples. It could be absolutely anything that's in the folio. So it does not have to be specifically fashion or textile based to get into either of those programs. I think it would be great if you, in your statement, show your interest in either textiles or fashion. So talk about the industry and talk about the specializations or the things that you hope to learn in the courses. But we are really interested more so in just how you think. We're interested in producing really unique designers. So individuality, your unique approach, your awareness of what's happening in the industry. I mentioned having a look at our graduates, following some of them through the website I mentioned, but also you'll see on the RMIT websites exactly many different examples of work. But we are interested in many kind of experimental approaches that you could put into that folio. So if you haven't done any related textile subjects or fashion subjects in VC, it's not a problem. Does that answer your question, Stephen? Hopefully. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I think so, Ricardo. Thanks for that. I think
right.
Quite a few people just asking around some of the detail on there, but I think you covered it really well. I think the important thing, if you are interested in any of our programs, is to look at the entry requirements, and there's actually quite a lot of guidance online around what's expected. Ricardo, while you're online, I wonder if you could tell me maybe 4 or 5 keywords in terms of the qualities or the attributes that you're looking for in a good design applicant.
Curiosity, thinking, experimental, thoughtfulness, and intelligence as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ricardo. Jenny, if you're out there, I wonder if you could share 4 or 5 keywords as well in terms of your ideal sustainable innovation applicant.
Oh, good question, Stephen. I think we want curious people. That's first and foremost, curiosity and a willingness to take risks, try new things. We need more people in the world today to be able to be innovators and to think more sustainably. So first and foremost, curiosity. I don't know if I can do 5 words because we also want diversity.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Jenny. And from the perspective of Bachelor of Fashion Enterprise, I think Ricardo and Jenny have said a lot of fantastic words in terms of my ideal applicant. I think also I'd be really keen to see applicants who are looking for new solutions, who are very much future focused, who are interested in what makes the world tick and what makes the fashion world in particular tick. I'm going to hand over to Robin for the last questions. Just before I hand over to Robin, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you in particular for your questions. Hope you've enjoyed today's presentation. But Robin, in terms of the ideal fashion and textile student, who is it that you've got in mind?
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm looking at people that can lead the future of the fashion textile industry. So people that are brave, adventurous, and also who want to be part of a growing collaborative network. It's about working together. So for me, it is bringing that diversity together. And also in terms of an industry in transition, there are so many incredible opportunities. And I hope that many of you will join us in the School of Fashion and Textiles either next year or in the coming years. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you to the Associate Deans for those incredible presentations. And again, have a great day. And as Stephen said, there's plenty of information for you to access online. And of course, there are ways that you can contact us as well. So thank you and goodbye.